Welcome to this part of the webcast series on the coronavirus. My name is Marian Anton from the Culture Sales and Service Academy, and within the next 30 minutes I will talk about the most important things to know about disinfection with scrubber dryers. Please consider that the following information is the current status of July 2020. All following information and findings are constantly being updated by experts as global research in these fields is ongoing and continuing. Kindly make sure to constantly check for updates, especially if it comes to regulations in your country. All information given is collected and based on expertise and research provided by various company departments. If you have any questions or concerns, please contact your sales support. For today's topic, disinfection with scrubber dryers, we have two agenda points that I'd like to go through. First, starting with hygiene basics, general information and wordings you should be familiar with. And secondly, the main part on the working procedure and things to be considered when you are disinfecting floors with a scrubber dryer. Let's start with the hygiene basics. There is one simple but very important hygiene principle that you should always have in mind when thinking about disinfection activities. It says, cleaning as much as possible, disinfecting as much as required. So what does that mean, disinfecting as much as required? The question when and where a disinfection activity is required is always defined by hygiene experts. Disinfection activities are planned according to circumstances and infection risk of the surface in respective areas. Very often, a risk assessment is done, which can provide clarification which activities are expedient, for example, a regular cleaning, or a targeted disinfection in a specific area. Hygiene plans are then created. These are written documents which exactly say what kind of activity, either cleaning or disinfecting, and how often this must be done in a specific area. It is a mandatory document both for the personnel and contractors working in the facility. For treating the surface, we're using the words cleaning, sanitizing, disinfection, or sterilization. At this point, I'd like to summarize the differences and provide the most important information on what's behind each word. Starting with cleaning, we're talking about a removal of unwanted substances. By cleaning, it is not intended to kill or inactivate microorganisms. Whereas with sanitizing, there is a reduction in the number of germs through preventive and disinfectant cleaning measures. Compared to disinfection, I'll talk about in a minute, with sanitizing there is no defined or complete germ reduction on the surface. Referring this to a use with a scrubber dryer, we can say in a regular cleaning process, you are using the machine in combination with a regular detergent. You are working in the one-step method, which means applying the solution onto the ground, scrubbing, and in the same step, sucking up the dirt water at the back of your machine. You can also sanitize floors with a scrubber dryer. To apply this method, you are using a disinfectant cleaner instead of a regular detergent. You still work with the one-step method, which of course provides dry floors after the process. Further than that, Culture is offering an additional solution for sanitizing large floor areas with our big ride-on scrubber dryers. An add-on spray kit bar, which is mounted on the back of the machine, is spraying your disinfectant onto the floor in order to sanitize large floor areas in a very efficient way. Talking about disinfecting, we're intending a killing or inactivation of all pathogenic germs. With the disinfecting method, a quite high reduction of both viruses and bacteria is achieved. This compared to sterilization, we're talking about a killing or inactivation of all bacteria, fungi, viruses, and sprouts. Sterilization is used to render a product free from all forms of viable microorganisms. Referring this to a use with a scrubber dryer, we can say that disinfecting is possible. We therefore use the machine in combination with a disinfectant. We are working with the two-step method, which means we apply the solution onto the ground and let it dry there. The complete procedure and the things to be considered are provided in the second part of this webcast. Sterilization is something we cannot do with a scrubber dryer, so we can either clean, sanitize, or disinfect the floors. I mentioned the importance of proper cleaning in the beginning. A proper cleaning always improves the hygiene level and also serves to prevent infection and protects the people in the respective environment. It makes no sense to think or talk about any disinfection activities as long as there is still dirt, whether adhesive or loose, on the floor. It's important to do your homework first with proper cleaning, even if this might require, for example, to rearrange your cleaning frequencies. Because one sole cleaning process can lead to a reduction of approximately 50 to 80% of microorganisms on the floor. Of course, additional disinfection activities help to prevent the spread of specific multi-resistant or highly infectious pathogens. For example, in outbreak situations or in occurrence of these infectious pathogens. When disinfecting large floor areas, a static reduction of at least 84 to 99.9% is achieved by a disinfection procedure. Talking about where, respective on which surfaces disinfection activities make sense, there are recommendations available from the Robert Koch Institute that are referring to a hospital environment in a daily business situation. According to these recommendations, a disinfection, even in a patient area, is recommended only on surfaces where we have frequent hand or skin contact. This can be, for example, light switches, door handles, or bedside tables. Other surfaces, such as floors, ceilings, walls, or lamps, do not need to be disinfected. Regular cleaning is sufficient here. But the occurrence of certain infectious diseases may require additional disinfection measures in all areas. This again then is defined by hygiene experts. Further than that, the Robert Koch Institute divides the different areas in a hospital according to the risk of infection. At this point, I'd like to show you an excerpt out of this, including the recommendations of the cleaning procedure in each area. Firstly, there are areas without risk of infection. Here, it is recommended to apply regular cleaning for all surfaces. There are areas with a possible risk of infection. Here, the recommendation is for all surfaces with regular hand and skin contact to clean or sanitize. Floors should be cleaned. All other surfaces cleaned as well. There are areas with a specific risk of infection. Here, the recommendation is for all surfaces with regular hand and skin contact to clean, followed by a disinfection. Floors should be sanitized or cleaned, also followed by a disinfection. and all other surfaces should be cleaned. Last, there are areas with patients contaminated with pathogen that may be spread. Here, the recommendation is for all surfaces with regular hand and skin contact to clean, followed by a disinfection. Floors in this area should also be cleaned, followed by a disinfection. And all other surfaces should be cleaned. This is one example of recommendations in a hospital environment where to apply cleaning, sanitizing, or disinfection of different surfaces. Of course, there are many other possibilities where, for example, a disinfection of floors can make sense. I'm just thinking about hygiene-sensible areas in the food industry, or for example in sports facilities, sports halls, or kindergartens, where there is frequent hand and skin contact to the floor. On the other side, of course, it can be a wish of your customer to disinfect the floor in specific areas. And if you want to do so, there are some things to know and some things to consider. And we will now go through all these single steps on the working procedure of disinfecting floors with a scrubber dryer. So before starting a disinfection activity, always comes the regular cleaning process. This means removing of all unwanted substances from the respective surface. You can of course use a machine for that. Choose a suitable detergent or disinfectant agent. Make sure not to use the same utensils for the cleaning and the disinfection process in order to prevent cross-contamination, because nothing worse than spreading the microorganism with the utensils from one room to another. Also make sure to have a neutral floor after cleaning and no residues of detergents are left on the floor. After the cleaning process was done, make sure to take care of your equipment. Empty and rinse and also disinfect the debris basket of your machine. Clean and disinfect also the squeegee and the blades. Also clean and disinfect the discs, rollers or pads, and the drive board of your machine. Of course, doing this, you have to wear disposable gloves and a safety mask in order to protect yourselves at this point. Before starting to use the machine for the disinfecting job, you have to disinfect the machine itself. Protect yourself, of course, with disposable gloves and a safety mask, and then start disinfecting all touching points of the machine. Wipe the switches, the knobs and the stacker. Same thing with the steering wheel and the control panel. Every part you have hand contact with. Go on with the seat, all covers and also the freshwater tank cap. After disinfecting your machine, dispose your wipes and your gloves into a bin. After that, you can start preparing for the disinfection procedure. And here there are 3 key figures to be considered very carefully in order to have a successful disinfection result. Key figure number 1 is the correct disinfectant dosage. First of all, ensure there are absolutely no residues of detergents left in your freshwater tank. This has to do with the different tensides that are used in detergents and disinfectants. Some tensides are positively charged, some are negative. If you have any residues left in your tank, you mix positive and negatively charged tensides, which can completely eliminate your disinfection result. The same thing can happen with detergent residues that are left on the floor. So as mentioned, make sure to have a neutral floor before starting with the disinfection. Dilute the disinfectant with water according to the manufacturer's specs. A very precise dosage is mandatory to achieve a proper disinfection. Too much or not enough of the disinfectant can ruin the whole job. For an accurate dosage, we recommend to use decentral dosage devices that are certified for mixing disinfection dosages. Please consider at this point that our dose system is working very accurate, but it is not certified for this specific application. You can also dose manually if you work accurate enough. As mentioned before, do not add any additional detergents, as this may completely destroy your disinfection success or can even lead to toxic fumes. Key figure number 2 for a successful disinfection with a scrubber dryer is a proper wetting. Also have a look at these 2 pictures that show how a proper wetting should look like and how not. For an adequate disinfection, the surface must be wet with the disinfectant. Only then enough active ingredients reach the surface and can react on the surface in order to disinfect. To achieve the proper wetting, we recommend the use of microfiber textiles. You can use a standard brush as well, but due to the high amount of water that a microfiber textile can absorb, the wetting properties are slightly better. To achieve the proper wetting, you can also reduce the working speed. The disinfection process is not a matter of time, but a matter of success in the end. For disinfection of floors with a scrubber dryer, you work with the squeegee lifted. You only apply the solution onto the ground and let it dry there. You do not suck up the water at the back of your machine. This last point leads me exactly to key figure number 3, which is the drying time on the floor. The information on the drying time is given by the manufacturer of the disinfectant. Due to working with scrubbing mode only, you do not suck up the water with the machine. The floor will remain wet. Reusing the area is possible only after the drying time which the manufacturer is providing. It might be required to block the area in order to avoid foot traffic. By taking care of all these key figures, you will reach a static disinfection of the treated floor. After a certain time, of course, it will come to a recontamination, but mainly with environmental germs that are not relevant to infection. After the disinfection process, there are a couple of things you need to consider to do with your equipment. Therefore, of course, you protect yourself with disposable gloves and a mask. You drain the dirt water tank, also the fresh water tank, just in case you picked up any water in between. Remember, for the disinfection procedure, you apply the solution onto the floor and let it dry there. Rinse the tanks with plenty of clean water. Leave them open so they can dry properly, and absolutely no residues must remain on the machine. After that, disinfect all outer and reachable inner surfaces like wastewater tank, storage, and so on. In the end, dispose your wipes and your gloves. Also clean and disinfect inner parts of your machine, like the debris basket. The same thing with the squeegee and the blades. Remove and wash the microfiber pads in a washing machine at least with 60 degrees Celsius, and do not use any softeners at this point. For more information about other coronavirus relevant cleaning topics, please follow the other webcasts in this series. If you have any questions or concerns, please contact your sales support. Here is an overview of all other coronavirus relevant webcasts. Please feel free to watch them. Thank you for listening. I hope this information was helpful for you, and stay healthy.
Cassia makes a difference.